Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use. And thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And in the end, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
That is correct.
How's it going, Ben?
No complaints. Just coming off a family weekend here at Rock.
Yeah.
That was cool, man. I saw you there Saturday morning before you headed up to Disney, and I would say, dude, it was really refreshing, and not refreshing because this happens often, but it was a super cool experience to have families that were so willing to better themselves in this process. Not just, hey, I'm sticking the addict in treatment and they need to get better. You know, we had wives, parents, all kinds of stuff. And, dude, it was good stuff. I enjoy meeting these people, genuinely.
Yeah, the cool thing that I notice, and not just with this family weekend, but everyone really, is, for us, this stuff kind of comes second nature. You know, when we have conversations with people, so on and so forth, like it's second nature for us to have these conversations. Like, you can't tell us anything that we haven't heard before, so on and so forth. But so when you see the look on some of the families' faces, when they hear something that resonates with them, or, they're impacted in some sort of way over the course of family weekend, it puts things into perspective. Like, it's easy for us, but for them, it's a lot of this stuff that they're learning over the weekend is very foreign to them, in communication styles, how to communicate with their loved ones, what the expectations are when their loved ones come home, how to react to situations, we even go in as deep as, family roles, the roles that each people play within the family dynamic, and the responses that each family member has, like, the hero, the scapegoat, the placater, all these sorts of things. And, a lot of times you see the families, they come in, probably not thinking that they're going to walk away there super enlightened, but every time they do.
Yeah, it's definitely, and Maya explained it well to the families in the very beginning, because we do like an intro with just the families, separate from the clients, and that's a couple hours probably, from about 9 to noon, so 3 hours. But she explains it as it's actually mentally exhausting and taxing. You don't realize how much you're going to go through emotionally if you've never experienced anything like it. And I can't think of anything in my life that is similar to that as far as an experience. Like, unless you have a loved one that went to treatment or been to treatment yourself, you probably haven't experienced anything quite like it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's hard to say, because
it's unique.
As you're saying that, I think that you and I are both going through something with our children that in a way is kind of this way.
Yeah, I can agree with that. However, this is like the solution side of it.
Right.
With our kids, I think.
Yeah, we don't have any solutions.
We're lost.
We're both screwed.
So if anybody wants to send us some emails, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com, Ben at realrecoverytalk.com, to give us some guidance on raising kids, please feel free to do so.
Yeah,
because I think we're both lost.
Yeah, we're I don't know if we're doing it right. And I lost my user manual, or my user's manual. But no, family weekend is cool. I mean, it's good to see too, because some of the podcast listeners actually were there, and we get to meet them, and they just talk about the podcast, how it's impacted them and stuff like that, which is cool, because honestly, it gives us more drive to do it. Not that we don't have the drive to do it, but it's something that is good to hear, because it's like fruits of our labor,
It's also one thing that I get out of family weekend too is that this addiction, alcoholism doesn't discriminate. And, everybody sees like quote unquote the low bottom drunk or addict. And they're like, yeah, they definitely need to be in treatment. But what's really cool about this process is we've got some quote unquote high bottom drunks, if you will, that are still holding very good jobs, stuff along those lines, making the bills, making it to work every day. But like to have the loved one come here and be like, no, they definitely need to be here. Because we get this, for those of us that present very well, when we first get sober, like for us, we kind of look at them and like, well, what was it really like for them? Because they're so good at painting a picture. Whether they're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, they've just, a part of their defense mechanism, a part of protecting their alcoholism and their drug addiction is a good presentation. Like, how do I hide my alcoholism at work? I'm professional in every way possible, minus my drinking, and I get really good at wearing that mask, that stage character, if you will. And it's just always really interesting to hear the family's perspective. And don't get me wrong, because our clients sometimes have this concern. This was like a big buildup. Every single family weekend, we have clients come forward and they're like, oh my God, my family's coming here so that they can beat me up and tell me about all the bad things I did. And it is literally nothing like that. That's all fear-based. And, keep in mind that our staff is here. Our clinicians are part of it to help guide healthy communication. At no point during family weekend is it about blaming. And it's, again, healthy communication, but it's just interesting, all the fear that gets built up. But then they come out on the other end of it, having these experiences that are life-changing for the family dynamic.
Yeah, a lot of times the clients, they get all worried and anxious about the experience, and then, they come out the other side and see the benefits of it. But I also do think, kind of going to what you're saying, like you did suck as a child, like let's call it what it is. You did put your family through hell and high water, and they are probably very fed up, and they have every right in the world to say how they feel. But the thing is that they're saying it in a controlled environment to where people like us are there to kind of mediate.
Not just mediate, but make what they're saying productive.
Right.
Because how many conversations, and I'm sure some of our listeners can relate to this, they've been in an argument with their addict, alcoholic, vice versa. They're not wrong about what they're saying, but for whatever reason, they're bashing heads and ready to throw punches, or, whether speaking, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. Google's calling. But where was I?
No, not sure.
Yeah, me either. Dang it. I got mushy brain today, dude. Just this calorie coding.
Well, whatever. I mean, your mushy brain is fine. We'll track from here, because what I wanted to say is that families, we give them this platform to be able to say this stuff. Because here's the thing. Me and my wife, we go to marriage counseling. We've been going to marriage counseling for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. And it's not because we have a bad marriage or anything, but it's more because we can. It's more of a preventative type thing. Because I don't want our marriage to get into a place where we need to go to marriage counseling. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
So I look at the family weekend and kind of the production of it. Me and my wife, we can have a conversation at home, and the conversation can go one of two ways. Either it's very productive and we both come out of the other side of the conversation feeling heard, feeling validated, feeling like it was a productive conversation. That happens about 25% of the time. The other 75% of the time is we come out of the other side of the conversation not accomplishing anything and feeling like we're not heard. It wasn't a productive conversation, so on and so forth. Then the marriage counselor comes in. We can go into this marriage counseling session, have the same exact conversation, but because there's somebody there that is able to see both sides of it and kind of help us walk through this conversation in a productive manner, 100% of the time we come out of the other side. Everybody feels heard. Everybody feels validated. Everybody feels respected, so on and so forth. And that, I think, is kind of the idea too. I mean, the family weekend is very educational in the sense of you're learning all this stuff as the family members and the clients too, if they so choose to participate, which some do and some don't, but they still have to sit there anyway if they choose not to participate. But that's the goal, is to educate you on all this stuff, but also you can have those tough conversations, and we're there. The staff is there. Other parents are there, so it provides a healthy environment for them to be able to do this kind of stuff, which I think is necessary because, what I said a little bit ago, a lot of the clients that we have, even though they're super nice, very respectful, like we don't have one bad egg. I like everybody here and generally always do. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that they weren't freaking assholes just 90 days ago or 6 months ago or whatever the case is, so I don't know. It's fun. I enjoy it. I'm never able to be there. I like to be there longer than I am, but this weekend I only had an hour. So, but you're foggy today, huh?
Dude, yeah.
What's going on with you?
I'm just tired, worn down.
Why?
In this next phase of this whole bodybuilding thing, cutting food, cloudy, bags under my eyes.
So you're not eating?
Significantly less. Like I probably had like a fistful of rice today, along with all the proteins and veggies and stuff. But the only easy energy for my body is that rice. So I'm like, Are
you ready to be done
with this bodybuilding thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
How many weeks do you have left?
10 weeks and 4 days.
Okay.
Until the first show, and then I got another show. So really 11 weeks and 4 days if you count the second show.
So they're in November.
Yeah, two of them in November. Back-to-back weekends.
Yeah.
Right after Thanksgiving. So I can't eat Thanksgiving either. That's going to be interesting.
That's terrible. That's awful. I don't know why you subject yourself to that. That blue shirt looks nice.
Thank you. It matches this Mess to Messenger.
Yeah.
Or just
you don't ever wear a polo.
5'11".
Oh, really?
Yeah, these shirts feel good.
What size is that?
XL.
Nice. Question for you.
Go. Hit me with it.
What's the job of a sponsor?
Oh. I'm curious why you brought this up, Tom. A sponsor's job is, in my experience, and I'm going to speak to Alcoholics Anonymous, is to sit down with their sponsee, read the big book to them. Every time it says stop and do something, they stop and do it. And when I say read it to them, also describe their experience along with those sentences, words, and pages. But they're not there to, quote unquote, manage your life. They're not there to get you jobs. They're not there to lend you money. Is that where you were kind of going with this?
Yeah.
A little bit. Why do you bring it up? Curious. I think I know the answer.
Well, I've run into, and I'm getting irritated, Ben. I'm getting irritated at seeing people doing this ass backwards. Everybody needs to stay in their lane.
I agree with that. So let's just call it what it is. no matter what aspect of life, in this case, I'm referring to 12-step fellowship, there's always going to be some folks that can't get out of their own way. There's going to be folks that haven't picked up a drink in 20-something years, but somehow still manage to cause all kinds of chaos in their life. And what sobriety is about as a whole is learning how to live your life better by principles, having good relationships, a connection with a God of your understanding. But I'm going to call it what it is, because this is where I imagine you're going with the whole thing, and the reason you asked. There are people in the rooms in the 12-step rooms that are somewhat lost still, and they don't stay in their lane. A really, really good example is I have recently, and this comes and goes, noticed an uptick in people, for instance, recruiting for different job positions at AA meetings. Now, don't get me wrong. Does it seem nice as an outsider looking in? Oh, yeah, I went to an AA meeting and this guy offered me a job. I'm going to call it what it is. And this isn't 100% across the board, but a lot of the times, if an employer is going to an AA meeting to find employees, generally speaking, it's low-hanging fruit. And they're probably imagining, whether intentional or unintentional, taking advantage of somebody in early recovery. Paying them a wage that they're, is not good. Offering them all these promises. Hey, man, if you come work at my call center or come work for my landscaping company, there'll be room for you to move up. And these folks know damn well that they're not any sort of end game, or, they promise the world, and what they're looking to do is line their pockets. I'm just going to call it what it is. Is that fair?
Yeah, landscaping. Do you know landscaping company?
I've known
some. Did you
some.
just pull that one out? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I've known some as an example. I've seen it with HVAC.
Yeah.
I've seen it landscaping. I've seen call centers. I've seen people selling insurance. All kinds of stuff, and that's not a sponsor's job. Again, stay in your lane. Like, I as a sponsor, don't want to be employing my sponsee. That there's boundaries there. It's what's called a dual relationship in the therapy world. Right. While being a sponsor is not the equivalent to being a therapist, it is, I would consider it a dual relationship. You can't be somebody's sponsor when you're also their boss, because let's call it what it is. Sponsorship is supposed to be altruistic, doing for others without expecting anything in return. If you tie a dollar to that, that's a problem, right? And, to be transparent, some of our listeners might be saying to themselves, well, Tom, Ben, look what you guys do. You're running a treatment center. There's money involved. Absolutely 100% there is. And I don't ever want to deny that. Tom and I, for instance, we make a living. So do our therapists. So do our techs. Doing what we're good at. We're good at guiding people in recovery. Now, the thing that I make very, very clear, and we've had past podcasts on this, I go out of my way outside of work to do actual service work that doesn't benefit me beyond I'm giving my time to another recovering alcoholic or drug addict and drawing that line. If I start going to AA meetings to recruit clients for treatment, then I've crossed a line.
Right.
And for me, that's something I've always kept a really good boundary with. I've had people, for instance, ask me, hey, Ben, can you sponsor me? And then they relapse and they want to come to Rock. And I'll politely tell them, like, hey, that's not really an option. We already have a relationship through AA. I can help you find another place. And in some cases might be a little bit different than others. But as a general rule, I always want to take a step back and look at what role am I in? If I was your sponsor first, I'm not putting you into Rock, right? If I'm working at Rock, one thing that I will do, I'll just throw it out there, like clients will ask me to sponsor them all the time while they're here, and I'll tell them no, Maybe in some cases, because I have done this, after you leave and graduate rock, yeah, I'll sponsor you. But what I tell them is while you're at rock, find somebody to sponsor you. Don't waste this time. Don't come to me because I'm low-hanging fruit and you want me to be your sponsor. Like, I tell them, I want to see you, if you want it to even be a possibility down the road once you've graduated rock and you've moved out of rock, for us to go through the big book together, I need to know that you did this with somebody else, so to speak, and worked with them as a sponsor and done it all, and not just sit around and wait.
Yeah.
You need to be productive with your time.
Yeah, it's just annoying because we see a lot of our, the vast majority of the people that walk through these doors are young men and young women. The majority. And we have people of all ages, but the majority of it's young men and women. And they're very
impressionable.
That's the word I was looking for, impressionable. And then they get linked up with somebody that you don't know their motives behind what they're doing. Because the reality is, and that's why I asked you, what is the job of a sponsor? The job of a sponsor is nothing more than to take you through the 12 steps. Mm-hmm. That's it. Don't blur the lines. That is it. Take you through the 12 steps. And if it falls outside of the scope of the 12 steps, in theory, they're supposed to, make the referral to whoever. Now, I get it. I understand. And this is the discussion Ben and I have all the time, that, sponsorship has over the years morphed into something a little bit different, to where you have to expect the phone call from your sponsee that sounds like this. Hey, I'm thinking about going out with this girl tonight. And, she told me that she's kind of a normie and she may have a couple glasses of wine, so on and so forth. Those calls are going to come through, and your job as a sponsor, probably direct them in kind of some sort of direction. And the way I would handle that is, listen, you're going to do what you want. Here's my suggestion. And because this is based off of my experience. And I use that because that actually happened to me, So I get that. I understand that. But I've seen in situations where sponsors are, it gives me this pit in my stomach because they're almost, it's a self-serving type thing.
Yep.
To where they feel better about themselves the more that they're able to do for their sponsees, to the tune of enabling, and actually setting them back, when in reality, like just all kind of stuff, giving them jobs, giving them money, doing X, Y, and Z, giving them jobs, introducing them to, again, there's nothing wrong with this, I suppose, but there definitely can be something wrong with it.
I was kind of feeling out the waters on this topic as you brought it up, and, I'll just come out with it rather than talking in riddles. I'll give a specific example. So there was an individual at Rock, a client, who picked up a sponsor, and this sponsor introduced him to a guy. Hey, I can get you a job. Introduced him to a guy, and this kid gets hired in this guy's call center. I'm not a fan of call centers for people in recovery. They're never good work environments for people in early recovery. They're on the phone all day long, cold calling people. That can be very high stress, commission-based job, this, that, the other. But anyway, he ends up getting him this job. And the client told me point blank, I picked him as my sponsor because he could get me a job. If that's why you're getting the sponsor to begin with, and it doesn't have to do with their actual sobriety and their 12-step experience, then boom, right there. You're literally telling me you picked this sponsor because he can get you a job. What ended up happening, because I just so happen to know through the rooms, the guy that has this call center, the client on the back end is literally making, by the time he broke down his commission, like $1.70 an hour for the hours that he's putting in. He stayed there for like a few weeks with these promises of you're going to get these big commission checks, this, that, the other. And finally, the kid figured out like it was all a scam. And what they were doing and selling was a scam as well. And the kid ends up, he was actually owed, I think, I want to say he was owed $130 check, commission check, $130 for a week's worth of work. And the guy turned around because he quit. And he quit in the right way. He let him know. And the guy said, hey, just don't show up again. The guy didn't even give him that check.
Yeah. Scumbags.
Scumbags. Straight scumbags. And this guy, the sponsor, went and found somebody else to try and give them the same. He's trying to fill this guy's call center. And I'm thinking in my mind, what is in it for this dude? Is he getting a referral for every employee or a kickback for every employee that he sends there? Like, it's super disappointing with someone that claims to have years of sobriety under their belt and working a good program does this stuff. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know people's motives, because a big part of recovery is you can't assume motives. Tom used the word enabling. Either this dude has bad motives or he's completely clueless and shouldn't be sponsoring people because he doesn't know anything about it. Both are bad.
Yeah. My ask would be very simple of somebody. If I'm somebody looking for a sponsor, my ask of somebody is this: can you take me through the 12 steps? Let's role play, Ben. Hey, Ben, I heard you speak at the meeting yesterday. Dude, that sounded awesome. Your message was awesome. Do you think you could be my sponsor?
Yeah, we can definitely have a discussion about that.
So you have experience, you've been through the 12 steps yourself?
I've been through the 12 steps. What I'll do is I'll sit down, Tom, you and I will meet up once a week. We'll sit down, read the big book. Every time it says stop and do something, we'll stop and we'll do it. To start off, I'm going to assign you page 86 out of the big book. It's an inventory in there. I want you to send that to me every evening and call me. We'll go over it. You know, do you have any resentments, fear, the like? Is there anything you're keeping to yourself that should be discussed with another person at once? The inventory's in the book. I'm not making it up as I go along. This is what we're going to talk about.
And so you want me to start this tonight?
I want you to start this tonight. You got a big book, Tom?
I do.
All right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I go buy you one.
Oh, sweet. I know. I got one, though. I got one in detox.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'll call you tonight. That's it. Very simple, straightforward. You know, hey, you take me to... All right, now let's role play again. Hey, Ben, like what you said last night. You think you could be my sponsor?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, cool. What's in it for me?
What's in it for you?
Yeah.
Sobriety, Tom.
Sobriety.
You want to have a spiritual experience?
I do, but you know, listen, I got a lot of financial issues going on, and I'm down and out. I'm trying to find a job. Do you know how are you networked in? You know, with anybody? Do you have good? You know people. You've been sober almost 13 years now. You probably know some people, right?
I definitely do know some people, but I will tell you, Tom, just based off of what you said, I got to point it out because I'm a buy the book guy. The big book actually has discussion about sponsorship, and it says that you're not to get involved with their finances. You're not supposed to find them a job, et cetera, et cetera. I'm paraphrasing, but it's in chapter 7, working with others. If they're asking you to be their financial, I forget the terminology they use, but to that point, I bust out my book and literally show you those sentences.
Oh, well, I respect that. And I think the fact that, you know, you're obviously by the book, and which makes it even more appealing for me to utilize you as my sponsor. But I figured I'd ask. But yeah, so let's start tonight, and I'll give you a call, so on and so forth.
Yep. Sounds like a plan, Tom.
Now, here's what happens. Let's role play again. Hey, Ben, like what you said last night, any chance you're open to having a sponsee?
I believe so, Tom. I do have a couple of spots open. I got some time during the week. I could meet with another guy.
Okay, cool. You know, I've been in treatment quite a bit. I've had a lot of sponsors and stuff. You know, do you think you can help me find a job? Are you like networked? You've been obviously sober a long time. I've just really had a hard time finding work. And yeah, so you think you can help in that in any way?
I can't get involved with that, Tom, from the position of being a sponsor. Are in this scenario, are you expecting me to?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I can't get involved with that, Tom. You know, it's my job is to take you through the 12 steps, and that is it.
Do you know anybody that can, like,
get you a job?
Yeah.
I mean, in AA, there's a lot of resources, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And people that may be willing to help out with that as far as showing up to the clubhouse and getting a message, that's one thing. You know, if fellowshipping, if you want to get part of the fellowship, you know, and you'll get to know people, and I'm sure opportunities and doors will open. If anybody's here to kind of pitch that to you, I'd probably be looking elsewhere, but it's best if you always go look organically.
I don't really like that. I think I'm going to pass and, you know, find somebody that can get me a job, Ben.
No. Good luck with that, Tom.
Okay.
Have a blessed day.
Point is, I mean, I think you get, you know, Ben is a by the book person, and this is how this is supposed to be done. And the lines get blurred very, 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 very often. And it's really disheartening because in the end, it gives AA a bad name.
Let me say this too, because here is something that I have said to our clients, and it's not completely black and white. Like what Tom and I are really good at is taking each situation and knowing how to react, respond, etc. But for instance, I'll have people call into Rock, you know, and they're, you know, I part of the pre-screen is what's your occupation? They'll say I do HVAC, for instance. I say, oh, interesting. You know, man, like you come here, get yourself through treatment, get yourself through 12 steps. You know, you really grab the bull by the horns on this recovery thing. And I just so happen to have sponsee brothers and know people in AA that also do HVAC. You know, maybe when the time's appropriate, I can make some introductions. But the thing about that is I'm prefacing all the recovery stuff that's the primary purpose here, right? And I'm also, as a whatever position I'm in, whether I'm calling on Rock's behalf or I'm a sponsor, I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm going to recommend some drug addict that I don't know that's 30 days sober. Like, that's where the red flag should be going up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether or not somebody's good with boundaries. Now, if you went through our program, I know you worked your steps with the sponsor, and you bring up that conversation. Hey, Ben, man, when we first talked, you said you knew some guys in HVAC. I'm like, yeah, man. What, you got six months now? You're through your steps. You're living in the sober house. You've done X, Y, Z. You know what? Let me reach out to my buddy and tell him exactly the situation, because I can say that. And then it's off of me. Like, hey, dude, there's this kid that came through Rock. He does HVAC. He moved down from Jersey. He wants to relocate. He's got 6 months under his belt. He went through our program successfully. His sponsor is so-and-so, and he's on step 11, or he's done with the steps. Is that somebody you'd be willing to talk to? And then I step away. Nothing to do with me outside of that. Like, I don't mind doing things like that. It's just knowing how and when to help.
Yeah, and I've done that. I've done that quite a few times with people here, you know, that they come through the program. And I do the same thing. Listen, I can get you an interview, but that is it. You know, from there, it's on you.
Yeah.
And you know the differences with you and I and them versus anybody else is I'm not your sponsor. I'm really not. I'm not. So if I want to do that for you, I can. And again, sponsors can also do that too. We're not saying that this is completely out of bounds, because we are realists, right? If I have somebody that, man, I haven't had any issues with them, and they've done all the work, and they've met every commitment. They've been open with me. They've been honest. I can tell that I've really helped them, and they've grown and they've thrived. I have no problems making some sort of, you know, recommendations or whatever, because I want people to be successful. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm your sponsor, so I can't help get you a job. No, I'm going to meet you where you're at. And if you're that type of person, of course, I'm going to assist. But if our sponsor-sponsee relationship strictly hinges on me finding you a job, you asking me for a job, me finding you a place to live, those sorts of things, which I see that too, that's super unhealthy.
Yeah.
Super unhealthy. It's super just like goes against every fiber of my being what a sponsor-sponsee relationship is supposed to be about.
And kind of one thing that I want to bring up is the fact that, like, the example that I used earlier, we have the client here at Rock, right? Like, they're a client at Rock. The most that I can do from my position also is just give feedback to that client. I also have to be careful as somebody that considers himself a member of 12-Step Fellowship and the 12-Step program to not, like, interject to a point either. I just kind of say, hey, man, that seems kind of weird. Like, you literally picked that sponsor just because he could get you a job? Like, is there anything else? And they're like, no. Oh, well,
don't you want more?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like sponsorship to me. Don't you want more? Exactly. I also have to, what's the saying, live and let live.
Yeah.
Where, dude, I can give our feedback, but we also, once we've given that feedback, have to allow our clients to have their own experience too.
Yeah.
I can't tell you our requirement, so to speak, at Rock is to get a sponsor. You know what? If you got a sponsor and I don't approve of them, there's not much I'll say to it. Like, I'll give a little bit of feedback, but I'm really careful too in that aspect where even when I run groups, say for instance, I'll tie big book literature into the group we're doing, and I'll tell people like, hey, this is my experience. Nor does AA or Rock have a monopoly on recovery. Like, you're going to be able to have your experience. If you don't like something I can say, take it or leave it. Like I'm laying my experience out on the floor for your inspection. You can pick up the tools that you want and leave the rest. Like, I do my very, very best to kind of, when I do talk about 12-step within Rock, to let people know, like, hey, this is what I did, and you do you. But most of the time what it is people, like, for instance, last episode, I think it was, we were talking about, like, mentors and stuff along those lines. Like, it was the episode with Steve. If a young man sitting down with Steve, Tom, and myself, at some point they're gonna start to want to emulate us, because we've got good lives at this point. And generally speaking, people will say like, "Oh, that's what you did. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do too."
Right.
Versus I don't push it down their throats. I don't tell them, "Hey, your sponsor's telling you wrong." I would never say that, and I'm very careful not to do that.
Yeah. I need to be more careful with that.
Tom, it's something about your delivery, though, man. You got a gift where, and we've talked about this before on past podcasts. Tom just has a way of like
getting the message across.
Yeah, he tells people what to do.
Yeah,
but like it's something about you and the way that you do it that's very effective.
Well, I think it's people see that like I'm not saying it out of any sort of malice, if that's even the right word. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've just been seeing things lately that are pissing me off. That's all.
This goes back to, and we were talking about this, like we're just so invested in seeing our clients and other people in the recovery community be successful, man. And like, I have to take a step back a lot of times and realize, man, like I'm not in control of everything. I'm not God, and however people do their recovery or push their recovery or whatever the case is, like I've got to also have understanding and take a step back and say, hey, man, I'm going to do the best to help the people that I can that are right in front of me.
Yeah. And
the people that are coming to me wanting the help.
Right.
And saying, how you doing this versus me going out and put my opinion on everybody. That's one of the principles of the program.
I think we can all agree, though, you can't fix stupid, right, Ben?
Oh, that is true.
Can't fix stupid. And that's something that I have to come to terms with.
It is definitely something you have to.
Because as soon as I come to terms with I can't fix stupid, it's probably going to help me with a lot of my stress levels.
Again, it comes down to passion for wanting to see these folks do well.
Yeah. Another random question. Have you ever had Petrillos?
What is that? Is that a type of pizza place?
It's in the food category.
Petrillos.
Yeah.
Is that like a mushroom?
No.
Kind of rhyme with Portobello in a way.
So they have one in Orlando because we were in Orlando this past weekend, and I was on Google and I was looking for something to eat because I was starving, and there was this place called Petrillos. I think that's what it's called. Anyways, it's they sell like Italian beef sandwiches. It's called Petrillos Hot Dogs, and it started in Chicago. This guy in
a hot beef.
A hot beef sandwich, yeah.
Bro, I just saw something on YouTube about this. Somebody like reviewed one. They're like, that's definitely a hot beef. There's like a place in Boynton or something, or Boca or something.
If there's a Petrillos in Boynton, I'm going to have
Oh, dude, I was like...
There's no way there's one in Boynton.
No, it's like a thing somewhere in the Northeast, these hot beefs.
Yeah, the hot beef sandwiches. They're phenomenal.
I don't even know what that is, though.
It's like a French dip in a way.
All right.
But like, so this one in this Petrillo's in Orlando, I found it on Google, and I'm like, oh, I want to check this place out. Oh my God. So you get, it's an Italian beef with this like spicy peppers on it.
I love that.
And then they dunk it in this like stuff that's like brothy.
Au jus?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Unbelievable. So I got that. I actually ate there 2 days in a row. The first day I got the large Italian beef dipped. So you have to say dipped. So they fully dunk it in this au jus. I got that. I got a large fry.
Oh, it's pre-dunked?
Huh?
It's pre-dunked?
No, you tell them to dunk it. It's called dipping it.
Wait a minute.
So you order the sandwich. You walk up to the counter and say, I want a number one, which is an Italian. It's a beef. I think it's Italian beef with spicy peppers dipped. That's all you say. And that means they're going to take it and dip it, the full sandwich, the whole thing, bun and all, into this au jus. And then they wrap it in foil and put it in a plastic bag and then give it to you. So I got that.
That's what I mean. It's pre-dunked.
Yes.
You don't do the dunk yourself.
No, yeah. You're right. Yeah,
with,
you don't
with like a French dip. I like.
No, you don't dunk
dip
yourself.
with every bite.
You can do that, but I didn't because I took the advice of
the full experience.
This guy in front of me. Because he overheard me talking about how I had never been there, and he gave me the whole rundown. You need a number one, dipped, large fry, drink, and a Chicago dog. So I got a Chicago dog too, which is a hot dog with
onions and something.
It's got like pickled, it's pickled something, a pickle, two of these little pepper things on it, and celery salt. Have you ever had them?
No, is it good?
Oh my gosh, phenomenal. So I had that, and then I had the hot dog, and then I had a large fry, and then I had a drink. And then the next day I went back and got the double cheeseburger with another Chicago dog, and then ate some of my kids' chicken fingers with some onion rings, so on and so forth with a drink. But the reason I bring this up is because they have a milkshake that I didn't get. But I think when you're done with your this bodybuilding thing that you're doing, we're going to go there.
Why? That was going to be my question, Tom. Why are you doing this to me?
So they
I literally tell them my brain is like melting from no calories, and
they have a chocolate milkshake, and then they take a full piece of chocolate fudge cake and like break it up and put it in the milkshake. You believe that? I mean, you got to eat this thing with a spoon.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So,
man, I'm starving, Tom.
When you're off of this thing, we can go there. We'll just take a drive up, 2.5 hours there, eat, and then come back.
I gotta Google this. Where I wish I had remembered where this hot beef thing, because I was pretty intrigued.
They have one right off of North Lake.
I'm honestly wondering if it was Dave Portnoy that reviewed it, like randomly. It wasn't pizza.
Did you look at the review that I told you to?
The one where the guy yelled at him?
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah.
He's getting torn apart, that guy.
Oh, poor dude.
No, what do you mean poor dude? He deserves it.
Well, yeah. I mean, people are jerks, man, but
he's an asshole. Dave Portnoy did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he on the interview with Tucker Carlson, Dave Portnoy was like, I don't say this about anybody, but that guy, I hope he goes out of business. I hope he gets buried.
Oh, that's sad, though.
Folks, now you're starting to see the dynamic between me and Ben.
It is sad.
Ben is the caretaker. Anyways, that was a good episode. Anything else?
Nope. It is hot in here, Tom.
Yeah, it is.
Whew.
All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Right, Ben?
That is correct.
Mundo.
Correcto mundo. I didn't want to use it again. You made me self-conscious.
That is it. We will see y'all later.